So this is going to be one of probably my favorite conversations because it is with my father and who I'm going to try hard not to say daddy because for almost 38 years to date, I've been saying daddy. But I'm just so excited that you are joining me on this conversation around being the unspoken truths of being Black in America. So thank you.
Well, no, thank you for asking me. I look forward to it.
So tell the people a little bit about yourself, whatever you want them to know.
Well, you know the name David Christian. I am the father of Chantée. And I want to say this up first, though. Very, very proud of you, young lady. I am extremely proud of you. And I want everybody to know that I was thrown back when one of my buddies texted me and said, "Hey, isn't this Chantée?" I said, "Yeah, this is Chantée." Because they remember Chantée, the little girl, and Chantée is now this young woman. And I love it. I think it's great. But you know me, I grew up on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, joined the military at an early age, ran off into all kind of crazy places from Kansas to Germany. So I've been around the States, different places. You know, I've had a couple of nasty deployments, the good old Middle East and all that good stuff. And I think my most crowning moment in the military career was actually something simple. Becoming a paratrooper was something really special to me.
Really?
I take great pride in that. And then I retired and joined South Carolina state government, became executive in the Carolinas government and all of the woos and woes that went with that. And then someone had me chase money and I ran off to Walmart. So there's my uh, professional career in a nutshell. Kind of wrapped all up kind of quick. But anyway, that's me.
Yes. And thank you. It's, I talk about it in my book, but it was something that you and mommy always said about, one egg, put all your eggs in this basket. And and I couldn't mess it up. I'm like, damn, that's really heavy. Like when I think about it. And so I'm glad that I didn't drop the basket,
Yeah.
and that I'm continuing to make our name proud. So
Yes. I see you recall a few things. The egg and the name. And I think, Shantae, honestly, for our youth, Black youth, you have to give them something to identify with.
mhm,
And, it's great to look at the superstars in the world and all that kind of great thing. But truly, you need to look right internal
mhm,
and find something great within yourself. Our family didn't have all greatness. There's no doubt about it.
right.
But there was a lot of pride in the family. And that old man, David Christian, that old dude had a lot of pride, man. He was a very prideful person. And you benefit from that because I wanted you to know that Christian name meant something. It was significant. So yeah, it's interesting you say that. So, cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember, and I use pieces of that in my everyday life and even in my mentorship and when I'm helping people craft their own brand is to remember that your name is your brand. You are your brand. And obviously you weren't calling it that when I was a child, but that is essentially what it is. It was you were teaching me what my brand was. And so those lessons are definitely lessons that I took with me. So yeah. Yeah, for sure. And even when I think about Black history, obviously Black history is not just one month, but when I think about it and how I learned it, it wasn't because I learned it in school. It was because at home, I learned really what Black history was and the book reports and reading different books about it. But what it did was that for me, it gave me a sense of pride in my culture and education enough to know when people were blowing smoke. Like, and I think that's really important, especially when you think about the 12 through K or K through 12 programs that people are in schools for.
Well,
Yeah.
again, you're the beneficiary of Melissa, commonly known as Monkey, right?
Yeah.
You know, uh, Probably one of the proudest Black Panthers ever walked. That lady, exemplified everything with strength. I mean, she was something special. to me, as you know. And, she wanted us to understand that a lot of the things that you see have spin, and you have to recognize spin. And if you really wanted to understand the truth, and that's why I like your unspoken truths. It ties back to some other conversations, but because you remember that we went to her funeral, and we were riding down 95, listening to some of their old music and trying to reconnect with some of those thoughts. And that's a long drive, that's a long drive. So there's a lot of time to talk. And we were sitting in, I think, my truck. So there we were, just riding down the highway, having that conversation. And she always wanted to motivate. Her thing was, she called it false pride. I don't want you to have false pride, right? But you need to have pride. And you got to look for those things that have pride. I think, again, we look too far for our heroes. Our heroes are right there, man, right? They're close by. If you really take a moment to look, there they are.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that very vividly. So when you think about your experience, because you grew up on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, and for anybody that knows me, they always say, "Where is that?" And I'm like, Chingatig. That's the only thing I can give people that'll get you close enough to it. I've been doing some additional research and just reminding myself of some history and remembering that Black History Month became a month in 1976. And so I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to Daddy and ask him. Do you remember it like being just a week or becoming a month, or how did it even shape at all with you being on the shore? Because I know how your experiences there have been a little, I would say, different than others.
Well, Tay, it's so funny too, because, you're not that far from DC, right?
Yeah.
And when policy was made, it somehow didn't filter to us. I remember when the lunch counters were desegregated, and yet we were still going in the back of a restaurant getting our food until it was enforced by some federal official saying you could no longer do this. Now, to be honest with you, we were upset about that because we could go in the back with the cooks and they could prepare us whatever. And, it was, I hate to say it, but it was a way of taking, we gained. When you go forward in the restaurant, you have people that won't even acknowledge you that you're there. Forget, they won't even wait on you. So, and you got to know those things changed back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And here I am, in the 70s, still living that. And only 3 hours from DC, So when you start talking about a month and identifying culture and all those things, it was oblivious to us until much later. That place was really slow to enforce the laws or enforce the trends. I mean, if anything, status quo was the key. And it was the key too. And, education was the other problem. The opportunities there are very, very limited. So, you have to stand up proud to say you got a chance to get out of there and achieved. And I say it like that, get out of there, because that's how I see that place. I've always seen it that way. In fact, for the longest, at least you tried to explain to people where you were from. I just said Virginia Beach, man, just make it simple. Because it was just too hard to try to explain that particular area.
It's really interesting. People still don't get it though. They're like, oh, with the ponies? No. You still need to drive about 45 minutes to get to where I'm talking about. And then you still like this it. Yeah.
Well, the Bay Bridge Tunnel is well renowned and it can give you some semblance of what reality is, right? But the people living there is lost in all that. I mean, it's just I got friends now, they call it the coastal highway. And they love driving through the coastal highway. It's so relaxing. And they make me laugh, right? Because they're oblivious to the people that live there.
Yeah.
You know, as they drive through, getting their fresh peaches and crabs and oysters and shrimp, and are delighted for those. And I am as well, but let me just say that, right? I'm delighted for those. But they drive through and never even think about the people.
Yeah.
Not their fault. Not their fault. It's just it's not there. You're almost like you're like the electric poles that hold the wire as you drive by. They're there, but they don't really have a significance to you. Very significant to those that are living there, but
Sure.
that's kind of how I see that.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Yeah. Um, so you leave the shore, you join the army, and what is your experience like joining the army in the 80s as a Black man?
Yeah, so I joined the army without any understanding of what I was doing. Now, your grandfather, Ernest, better known as Pig, was he was in the Navy in World War II.
I don't think I ever knew that.
Oh, really? Yeah, he was in the Navy. He didn't want you to know it. He was embarrassed of being in the service. He wasn't allowed to carry a sidearm, and he was a cook. One of the only jobs that they were allowed to have. So his tutelage to me was, why do you want to do that?
Mm.
And I tell you, Tay, I didn't join because I was this big patriotic kid, right? I wanted to, defend my country and all that trash. No, they had a $10,000 signing bonus. I was a poor broke kid, and $10,000 was amazing to me. I said, I'll do it. I had no clue what I was doing. So I was left in the hands of the recruiter who signed me up to go be an armor crewman. I said, man, what is that? He says, well, you'll have fun.
Don't worry.
I go to Kentucky, and I go to basic training there. And it's so crazy too, because I saw my first skunk. Never knew what a skunk was. God, those things stink, and they truly do stink, right? That was my indoctrination in Kentucky the first time. You're going to go back there with me later in life, but the first time. And then I go to Kansas, Fort Riley, Kansas, and they put me in a platoon. So in a tank company, there are 3 platoons, 3 line platoons and 1 headquarters platoon. The second platoon there was all white guys. The third platoon was all Black guys. Kind of weird. First sergeant put me in the white platoon. He says, I got to do it. Didn't really understand that one. And then later I had so many problems in that platoon. One of the guys told me, he says, a guy named Price, he says, he's a card carrying member of the Ku Klux Klan, man. You understand that, right? And that's why you're having so many issues. No, I didn't know that. And here's what the shore did, Chantée. It sheltered you from all those things. All the things that happen outside in society, you didn't see a lot of that on the shore. So that was one of the things. The shore gave you a little peace and serenity because you was insulated. As long as the farmers didn't get pissed with you, you were fine, right? So you didn't have this outside influence. So now I get to meet that influence. And that's how I got sent to Germany, actually. I was deemed a troublemaker. I go to Germany, and this is the life of a Black man now, moving as a young Black man. I go to Germany and I meet a Mexican guy that was in class with me named Neil. Neil at that time had been promoted to sergeant. I was still a PFC. So when Neil saw me, he was like, what did you do, man? You've done something. You've gotten busted. You must have been drunk or something. And no, nothing. Moses, Moses, I can't think of his name. Mosier was a platoon sergeant, and my skill sets were 3 times better than Neil. I got promoted to sergeant within 13 months. And as soon as they could, I was going to the E6 board, and I went to BNOC already. So I surpassed all those guys just based on performance and skills. But what had happened was I was in a place, Chantée, where we weren't going to make it. It was understood. So how being Black in the early days in the military was weird, because it was an acceptance of this. We'll select 1 or 2 people maybe, but you know, and you're not one of them. And then you got this thing with this skin tone that you always got to remember, right? So during that time, you know, you're dark skinned, man, so you ain't gonna make it. And that was imparted. It was believed and accepted. Anyway, I went on to Germany and flourished, and I meet this little crazy guy. Actually, I was running track, and I meet this lady who's trying to run, and she can't really run, you know. Well, she didn't say that, they might see this. But she was giving it her best. She invited me and your mom to her house for tea. Who invites anybody to the house for tea? You know, it's just weird. Anyway, we go there, and I meet them. Little did I ever know, though, that guy would come back and become my battalion commander. He became the battalion commander, and he calls for me one day, and he says, "Where's Christian at? I need to see him. Where is he?" And everybody was freaking out, man. What did you do? The commander wanted to see him. I go to see him, and he says, "Hey, we're about to get the M1A1, baby. And I want you to be on the lead on this." Yeah. He says, "So why are you looking like that?" I said, "I want to be a drill sergeant." Drill sergeant. My God, man. So he fought me on it, and then finally he approved it, because I had to get an approval to go. Because that's all I've ever wanted to do. As a goal in the military, all I wanted to do was be a drill sergeant. After that day, I could care less about anything else, because my drill sergeants imparted so much strength, knowledge. They showed me, I believe, you know, the image of what a soldier should be. I mean, they would strike, they looked good, they were sharp. I wanted that. I really wanted that. Plus, I wanted that hat. That brown round, you know, simple motivations, right? Simple motivations. And so he sends me off to drill sergeant school. I take off, leave. And while I'm there, I'm in a company of, these are Black drill sergeants and 2 white guys. The 2 white guys you thought were Black guys. They were like civil rights advocates, fight for the rights, you know. They were crazy, because they were allowed to go to school at night and nobody else was. And when I wanted to finish my degree, they said, "Hey, why can't he finish his degree?" They fought for me to finish my degree. It was so neat, right? Because that's how I finished my degree there. Now, as the world turns, that old little guy, now he's going to pre-command school for a brigade. He's now a brigade commander. And he calls me up. He calls me and your mom up, and he says, "Hey, well, tell me, guys, what do you guys want to do?" I had no goals at that point. What do I want to do? I didn't know. Now I'm about to make sergeant first class. And, you know, life is good. We're making decent money. I'm okay. And he pulls up a chart and showed me the 2 pays. And he says, "This is what a lieutenant makes. What sergeant first class make. You got a little girl. I want you to do the best you can for your little girl. You think about it." I said, okay. I left him. I wasn't listening to what he had to say. I really wasn't. But when I get back to the company, he's already talked to the battalion commander and the company commander, and they're like sticking me hard, Tay. So they give me something called an OSB, which is the Officer Service Battery Test. One of the most biased tests I've ever taken in my life. I mean, you want to talk about racially discriminatory, or even it was a class kind of deal, you know, because you had to have exposure to these things to understand what they were talking about, from the arts. I mean, it was just crazy. I was like, what does this got to do with being an officer? I was told you had to be well-rounded, so you had to understand all those things, because I failed it. And as you know, I hated failure, man. That tore me up. I couldn't take it. And you only at that time, you only got 2 opportunities to take the thing.
Mm.
So I went and got my liberal arts and got into classes, and I did the work, and I came back and I blew the test out. And now I'm motivated to become an officer because it didn't piss me off. It was more of, you can't tell me I can't do this.
Sure.
And plus I had the support of those guys. And now this dude comes in, he was at 137 while we were there, while you were a little girl running around. He's now made a star. He's a mentor to Clay, Colonel Melton at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so you saw this chain. So there's a GO that's got a full colonel. 4 colonels got all these other people under him. And one of the little people he won is your dad. So they sent me to OCS. I go there and they beat the dog poop out of me. I've never been treated so bad in my life.
Not even in basic?
Never been treated so bad in my life. I've never. So, I mean, that was crazy, man. That was the craziest time of my life. Yeah. Anyway, so I leave there and get commissioned as an armor officer, and I come back and I realize that in the armor branch, there is not many of us. Not many of us at all. I didn't pay attention to that when I was an NCO in the armor branch, because it was commonplace to have our officers just they were white men. I mean, there ain't no women in the combat branch anyway. So they were just white males. The black lieutenants didn't last long. They were like, it was like hello, I'm a black lieutenant. Hey, I'm gone as a black lieutenant. So that longevity wasn't there.
Right.
We go to Germany as a lieutenant. I get a knucklehead for a company commander. He's dumb as rocks. And I know I was a lieutenant, but at this point I was a platoon sergeant lieutenant, a little different kind of lieutenant. I wasn't your average lieutenant. And he couldn't train nobody on nothing. I mean, if he ever listens to this, hey, it's the truth, dude. I don't know if you remember John. You remember John? With
their son, they had Bobby, right?
Bobby, yeah.
Lori, his wife Lori, and they had Bobby. Yeah. Yes, they were my first real gig. That's my first entrepreneurship. Yep. I used to babysit little Bobby.
And here's where you take the stereotypes and throw them out the door. Here's a white male from Kentucky. Turned out to be one of my best friends ever. Okay. John Roberts, one of the best dudes ever walked, man. That's a great man. So, you can't look at someone and say they're white and, oh God, they're horrible. No, that's not true. It's not true at all. You got to judge the people for who they are, because I could tell you stories of some amazing black people that are caused me more harm than anybody. So, that's one of the things I've learned in life. Understand you have to judge people for who they are, be careful with what they say, just watch what they do and you'll learn. I would have never been where I am today if it wasn't for 2 white guys. 2 white guys. I can say that honestly. And anyway, then I go on and I become a lead platoon leader in a task force. That became the 3rd ID task force, and I'm the lead guy in that task force. It's a big deal. I'll tell you a crazy story. So I'm at the golf course probably last summer. I see this guy. I said, man, and I know you from somewhere. He's like, God, I know you. I was like, yeah. I couldn't remember. He kept telling me where he was from and what he did. And I was like, I don't know this dude. And then he said something. And I said, oh, wait a minute. Your voice. I know you. You remember Stephen and
Vicky?
Vicky?
Yeah.
Stephen's lieutenant, one of Stephen's lieutenants is now, he's just made GO.
Oh, cool.
He's a GO. But that little knucklehead and I were there together as we used to. Finally, he's like, man, we thought you were bigger than life. Yeah, I know.
Listen, you coming into the town, it's like, a big town mayor coming in.
It was funny though, because you see development. You see these little, and I used to call them kids, and I know that's not the right terminology, but I saw these little kids as little kids, and now I mean, they're our leaders, and I think that's great. Cool. So anyway, I leave there, and the infamous wisdom of the Army, they made me a signal guy, put me in the signal corps. I'm sorry, signal corps. I didn't mean that, but that was. I'm a combat arms guy, man. I wanted to chase down things and shoot them, And now I'm trying to hook your computer up and put your telephone together, and so you can talk, and you got to understand, this was in the age when computers, was new, the old 486, 286, 386, you don't even know what that is.
I have no idea.
And some dude that don't even know how to turn his computer on, and he's your commander and he needs help, and you have to babysit his computer. Today, we all call it end users. You're end user, go do it yourself. Yeah, no, that's not the way it was. No, you got, they're paging you, pager, right? What's, it's an emergency. What's an emergency? You can't get your Word document off the computer, man. I'm telling you, that's sweet, buddy. It's an emergency. Okay. So that was my defense of America's trying to get the computer system back out in the combat world. And I've skipped through all kinds of stuff, I'll tell you, of course. And then I went to Fort Bragg and hung out there in the 82s. Got to hang out with then Colonel Vi, who's now General Vi. Everybody called him Via. In fact, Herman just sent me a picture where Bruce Crawford, who was Major Crawford, was a 3-star in charge of CIO there. And Rob and I were in the 3 shop together. He's now 1-star, and I'm not sure he's made a second or not. Good guys doing great things for the Corps and great mentorship. So that was the first time I got put in a mentor program where people would talk about your future. And it was amazing because they want you to write it down and look at it and live it. It wasn't one of those, I said it and it's a goal, but it has no action tied to it, no nothing. It was, no, man, we write it down, you live it. I mean, you actually live it. Let's go do these steps. And it was so amazing because when you reflect on what you want to be or where you want to be, it's a little daunting sometimes because, now you dream, right? And imagination and all that kind of stuff. And I know you remember I used to tell you, you always got to dream, always dream. And I always believe that because if you stop dreaming, you stop believing, and what do you have, And we definitely don't want to become just whatever it is, whatever. So make a difference, I guess. Anyway, and then, I had my issues at Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg was kind of weird. I went to see General Melton and he says, I didn't want you to go there. So why? He says, well, he called me baby all the time, right, baby? He said, baby, we don't do good there. Who's we? Remember, he's a little white man, right? He showed me some demographics and some information that say that Black officers just didn't do well in certain commands there. That's not what happened to me. I had a defiance about me, and someone told me not to do something, and I did it anyway. And I've accepted that in life too, because I always told you got to accept the consequences that come with your decisions. So it wasn't about what General Melton thought. It was me. My mom used to say that hard head's gonna make that, and I've had enough of those, So that was that. And then I come here, Carolina, and I just want to end my career, man. Do a retirement and get a great job. And I had some beautiful opportunities. And then George W. decided he wanted to revenge his father, and I couldn't do that. He did too much. I quit. So I put my resignation in, and it got rejected, of course. And they told me, you're going to hang around for the next 2 years, buddy. You ain't going nowhere. And I couldn't believe that. It kind of irked me a little bit. But anyway, I got out and I went downtown working for a really sharp lady in a Republican administration. Kind of confused some people because they weren't sure what my political affiliation was,
Sure.
and I'll tell anybody that be careful with those political affiliations. You have to know what a person's about.
Hmm.
And if that person's going to carry your issue, then that's the person that I think you want to be with or support. And just be careful, because politicians in general try to please too many people, and you can't please everybody. We all know that. Anyway, I get downtown, and I'm doing great. I get promoted. I get promoted again. I get promoted. And I get promoted again. And then people start getting pissed off because I've gotten promoted too many times. I didn't care. At that point in my life, I could care less. I was rocking and rolling, and life was good. And I was traveling around the world. I started my business now, and I was having fun. I could care less what those people thought. And then we got a new governor, and she cleaned house. And it was totally within her right to do so. I didn't think she did it right. And I didn't think that, I felt the word targeting, and I'll use the word targeting. I thought targeting took place. So for that, I sued the state, you know. 5.5 years we battled.
So wait, so before you tell the people why you sued the state.
I sued the state because they went out and removed Black management out of position under the auspice of restructuring. They came up with these crazy. It was a daring maneuver that legally, I don't know. I went through the appellate court. In the appellate court, I had judge says, "Hey, I agree with you," and the judge says, "I didn't agree with you." So and I felt like I got run over by money, to be honest with you. But it was one of these things where in a hierarchy of an organization, we have a structure that had 1, 2, 3, 4 top execs and one of the department heads. The 4 were equal, and it was a Black female, a white female, a Black male, and a white male. Nobody had a problem with anybody there until they put a Black male in. I was the first Black male ever put in that position, right? And all of a sudden, man, it was just crazy. It was just crazy. Efficiency, Chantée, I could easily document my efficiency in the organization. I mean, probably 40-some% increase in efficiency, intake in money. They had so many problems, and it was just crazy, right? So of course, I love the way they narrowed down the lawsuit. So we're not talking about whether you were a great manager or not. Is it or is it not within the authority of the governor's office to remove you? Oh. Nobody in that position that I served in has ever been removed anywhere. But here's the thing. You want to know why I decided without a doubt that I would do it? During the restructuring, they took me from what's called a band 8 and made me a band 4. A band 4 is a clerk, a administrative aid assistant is called. So you gotta be kidding me. How can you take a man from the corner office and tell me I'm gonna go sit in a cubicle in the same building? I'm gonna work for my old subordinates. I mean, humiliation out the whack. Internationally, I'm serving on boards, right? I'm a board member of international boards recognized for innovation, you name it, right? And I'm told we're not gonna do any innovation. I'll give you a quick jump. So today, the organization is being run by one of my old subordinates who's still using my stuff. As old as it is today, because he couldn't have brought to the table what I brought if he wanted to. But they wanted him. I go in a meeting and you sit down at a table where there are white professionals. I'm a Black man coming in to talk to them. The board president, is talking to my subordinate. And he's telling them, I can't answer that question. You got to talk to Mr. Christian. And he doesn't want to talk to me. I mean, the guy just doesn't want to acknowledge me. But see, Tay, there's something else. And let me tell you this. So in the military, you'd be walking by a soldier walking towards you. And, we render a courtesy, which is a salute, right? The soldiers walk right past you and won't even recognize that you're an officer. because it wasn't accepted in their head that to even identify that this is officer. They automatically assumed you might be an NCO, but you're not an officer. I mean, it was it's like how many times have I stopped somebody? It's so crazy, but you start realizing what you can do with someone's mind. If you continue to perpetuate the same things over and over again, you will get, it develops a culture that's blind. I mean, I'm talking right past you with these big old silver bars on you and you can't see them. Nope. And I used to think it was done intentional, but then I realized something. You're not seen as that person. So when you're in that position, you were never seen to be in that position. So it makes it easier for me to question you then. So when you start talking, I can say, oh, you're not an expert. You don't know what you're talking about because you don't expect me to be the one with the expertise. So that's where that all comes from.
Yeah, it's nice to hear your story all together. Obviously, I've been with you for some of it, but also hearing about it as an adult is different.
Oh,
It's different, and I appreciate that. You said a couple of things um, that reminded me of a conversation that we've had within the last year around action and around dreams and how people dream and have these visions, but then they don't put any action to it. And your mentors were people who help you with a vision, but also put the action behind it, even when you didn't want to. And I think that in our Black community, that's something that, and I can speak for the industry that I'm in, that isn't always something that is readily available. And so you have to seek it.
yeah, mentorship is a wicked little thing, and so I remember, you would see someone in a position and you would try to get an office call with them, uh, get some of their time, shoot them an email and tell them that you were interested in them being a mentor, or you were just interested in having a conversation with them. Once I started doing that, I realized how easy it was. See, at first I thought, man, they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to take time. That's not true. I think most of them are more than willing to talk to you. They may not be willing to put you under the wing and pull you along and all that kind of good stuff, but the insight that they can provide is key. And sometimes I'm telling you, it's an email. I've got office time with some people that, well, I'm telling you how it first started. I was told, hey, I want you to go see this guy. I said, oh, why? Because I told you to, just go see him. And, and I was always, I'm an apprehensive person with a lot of stuff. And I was like, what? I don't even like that guy. I don't care if you like him or not, go see him. I go and I knock on his door and he says, come on in. He says, I've been waiting for you. I say, yeah, yes, sir. He says, sit down. He says, so what are you going to do with your life? Those broad questions. He said, okay, look back on the last 10 years of your life. And if you could change those 10 years, what would they be? Huh? I've never did the retrospect thing because I've always thought that was really dangerous. So be careful with how you look back. It's always how I thought, but that's not what he was saying. He was saying, hey, be critical of yourself, man. And you can't lie to yourself. My God. I mean, be critical with you. And if you don't want to share that with nobody, then don't. But at least you do it. And it helps you with where you're trying to go, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And I think that so sometimes you don't realize the gems that you left behind that you didn't grab a hold of. And so it's really helpful at times to look back, not to dwell on it, but to look at it and to put it with a critical lens. Yeah, I really do. That resonated a lot with me.
I think there's something else, Tay, that I had to come to grips with. You can't see yourself.
Mm.
You think you know who you are. it's so weird too, because I have some leadership class somewhere a long time ago. Somebody once said to me that, let's define your personality. And I've taken every Briggs, everybody's diagnosis, and I've sat down and said, man, you guys are crazy. That's not me. And, and they pose a question to you 15 different ways, and I've answered that same question. I got tired of trying to remember how I answered the question before, and I said, okay, now you got me here. It became a little effort of just trying to get through this assessment. But the one thing I remember one instructor said to me, and she said, here's what you ought to do. If you go from one setting to another setting to another setting, and you find something consistent that people say about you, and these people don't know you, they're totally disconnected from each other. And there's things that they're saying that are consistent about you, you might want to look at them because they just might be you. And so there were some things that people used to say about me. I was like, that ain't me, man. After a while, I realized, that might be me. And it all ain't good, you know what I'm saying? So, you have to do that. That's part of that whole process,
No, I think that's true. Um, no, like that's really true because and sometimes even when they're always a theme, they might say it differently, but really got to look at it. That's, yeah.
And then
So, oh, go ahead.
I say, and then as you help someone else, your child develop, that's what you have to do. You have to help your child develop. Um, I can recall many times where you and I were right there together, lockstep in love. Another time when you wanted to bust me in the head, and I'm okay with that. And I say it all the time. I'm okay with that because I know that what I'm doing is gonna make you better.
Mhm.
I'm convinced of it. I know it. You don't have the knowledge that I have at this time. Therefore, you cannot judge it fairly. You can't. And you were saying, but daddy, and I know. I can recall some of those old conversations. I still laugh about some of it, because I look at you today and go, look, see?
No, I mean, it's through a child's lens, right? And like you said, I hadn't lived enough. I hadn't gone through enough experiences. Um, I mean, I think I still would fight you on some of the things that we used to tug on.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, when this airs, I'll be 38. So 38 years later, I'm so grateful that we had those exchanges and that we have the relationship that we have because I can stand strong and firm in saying I'm a daughter of a Black man who, with my mother, showed me what true Black excellence is. And even though you questioned at times some of my decisions, that but it was part of the circle and it's part of the process. And I don't think either one of us thought that I would ever have a platform where I was talking to people about my experience.
No,
But
I didn't. And it's so gratifying that you are because you've embodied so much and you can take it and share it, Um, I shared mine with you. And the thing about the analogy about the egg, what's so significant about that was it wasn't a joke.
oh, I
Yeah,
know.
I meant that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah, I
yeah.
meant that with all my heart. Right, right, right.
Oh
So that's important because that was the guiding principle. You got to have something that set you on your railroad tracks. And as you maneuver through this world with all the highs and lows and all that crazy stuff, but you still have to have something that set you. So yeah, no doubt, no
yeah.
doubt. My mother was very valuable in my life, but my father gave me so many little tidbits. And it's probably because of his early death. You
Mm.
know, I've learned something in life, with death and what it does for you. It helps you memorialize somebody and it does something different with their words. So
Mhm.
his words probably meant more to me, unfortunately, after he was dead than they did when he was alive.
Mhm.
Um, because it made me stop and think, where he was coming from and some of his thoughts. Um, some of the stuff that he said, I thought was just outlandish, and just like I knew you thought some of the things I said was just outlandish.
To say the least. To say the least.
Yeah, I know.
So, as we draw to a close, what is it that you would like to leave our audience with?
Well, I want to. I think I want to take away from someone else's thought process and just share it because I think it's true. You know, Everybody talks about our society and where we are and how the people are and all those things. You want intervention from the law enforcement, you want intervention from government, you want new laws, you want all these things. I honestly believe if you want change, then you make change within your community, your home. As a parent, you have the opportunity to mold a child. You really have an opportunity to influence their life. It's not easy. It's not easy. And you may feel like you're going to lose them at some point because you feel like you're being too hard, too difficult, or some wacky thought. And you might. But I found that more often than not, you don't. They'll learn to respect you for where you stand. They may not understand it at the time, but they'll learn to respect you for what it is. And I'm not talking about abusing a child. I mean, that's crazy. But I'm talking about open their eyes, man. Share things with them. Quit acting like they're little kids and not sharing them. You wrote a letter to me when I was in command, and I read it's an email actually, and I was working like crazy, and there was an email, and I said, huh. I popped it open. I read the email and was lost. I couldn't believe my little girl wrote that email,
Mm.
and then I realized you weren't my little girl anymore. You were my young woman. That was a coming of age thing. That helped me. It helped me understand where you were because see, I think parents see their kids as the kids. They're still the kids, from way back when. And
Mhm.
they're not. They're not kids anymore. They're grown adults. Man,
Mm.
if I had a mic, I'd drop it.
I can't thank you enough for joining me in what will officially be one of the last unspoken truths as we know it, or webinars as we know it. It's not going away completely. It's just, we're going to revamp it and make it look a little different. So I thank you because without your strength and determination, what you used to say was a project to see if you did a couple of things different, how it would turn out. And so whatever that mix was, this is what you got. This is what you got. But no, I appreciate you and I thank you, thank you, thank you. And to anyone who is listening or viewing this, thank you for your support. And I can't wait to see what else we have coming next out of My Best Shift.
Beautiful. Good luck, Mash.
Thank you.